Mark had always been drawn to the charm of old architecture. When he moved into a 1920s New York apartment, he admired its worn wooden floors, high ceilings, and vintage fixtures. But one peculiar feature caught his attention, a small pinhole in the bedroom wall. At first, he thought nothing of it. It could have been from an old picture frame or a forgotten repair. But late one night, unable to sleep, his curiosity got the better of him. He crouched by the wall, pressing his eye to the tiny hole. What he saw froze him. The pinhole offered a view of another room, but it wasn't empty. It was dimly lit by a flickering candle, casting long shadows on the peeling wallpaper. In the center of the room stood a man, gaunt, gray-haired, and wearing a disheveled suit. His sunken eyes gleamed with malice as he meticulously arranged a set of tools on a stained wooden table. A cleaver, a pair of rusty pliers, and lengths of frayed rope. Mark's stomach churned. The man began muttering under his breath, his words inaudible but chillingly deliberate. Then he picked up a length of rope, testing its strength with a slow, sickening tug. Mark recognized him. His face was unmistakable from the history books, a photograph he'd seen once in an article about notorious criminals. It was Albert Fish, the infamous serial killer and cannibal who preyed on children in the 1920s. But that couldn't be. Fish had been executed nearly a century ago. Mark pulled back from the wall, his heart hammering. The rational part of his mind tried to explain it away. Maybe it was a reenactment, a trick of his imagination. But the sense of dread that crept over him was undeniable. Unable to resist, he looked through the pinhole again. Fish was staring directly at him. Mark stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. He stared at the wall, his breath shallow. The room beyond was silent. He forced himself to lean closer, pressing his ear to the wall. Faintly, he heard the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps coming closer. Suddenly, a loud thud reverberated through the apartment. Mark's head snapped toward the front door. Someone or something was pounding on it. He grabbed his phone, but it wouldn't turn on. The screen stuck on static. The pounding grew louder, more insistent. "Let me in," a gravelly voice called. It wasn't a demand. It was a promise. Panicked, Mark ran to the door, placing his hands against it. "Go away," he shouted. The voice laughed, a low, guttural chuckle that turned his blood to ice. Then, silence. Mark stepped back, trembling. When he turned around, his bedroom wall was no longer there. In its place stood Albert Fish, holding the cleaver, his mouth stretching into a grin too wide for any human face. "Welcome to my room," Fish whispered as the candlelight flickered out.